once we receive divine love into the soul, our soul, now we're going through an experience. The beauty of going through the experience is now when we talk about kindness, God's kindness, and we actually go through an experience where we felt God's kindness, now we can feel the attribute of God. And also we will now, because it's now inside of us, be able to start reflecting that attribute of God to other people who are around us, reflecting their kindness, if you like, to another person. And so what this does is it allows us to experience God through this connection or this relationship. So this thing going on is what I call the relationship. It's a real relationship that we're developing with God. And through the relationship, we're going through this wonderful process of discovering ourselves, discovering our potential, not just what we are now, but our future potential, and also discovering God herself through the process as well, because we're receiving part of God's attributes and qualities as we change. And then when we talk to another individual about God, we don't have to say, oh, do you think God's like this or do you think God's like that? Because we already know. We've already felt it and we've already experienced it, and we've already experienced a change in our own life in the way that we've demonstrated that reflection of that love to others. And so, of course, we can just go, wow, this is like, we know now that God has this quality of power. We also know how God delivers power to the universe, because I've actually personally experienced it, and that's how I deliver my power to the universe as well. That's, once I've personally experienced it from God and I've experienced that change me, I now deliver my power to the universe in the same way God delivers her power to the universe. And as I go through that personal experiment, I am now able, without any person's assistance, to say, I know what God's great nature and quality is with this attribute of power, for example. Yep. So I do want to, of course, talk about God's attributes and qualities, but I feel even more importantly that we need to experience them rather than talk about them. And in fact, we can talk about them for a long period of time without experiencing them. And that is a sad thing, I feel, that much of humankind, if you look at almost all of the religions on this planet, they've talked about God, you could literally say until they're blue in the face, and literally for many of them until they've died, they've talked about God, without actually feeling any part of God in their nature. So in other words, by the time of their death, they are still wanting to kill people, for example. They still want to impose their will upon other people. They still want to conquer. They still want to do all sorts of other things, right, which are obviously completely against the very nature of God that they've been discussing their entire life. And so I do feel that there is a danger in a discussion such as this. And the danger is discussing all of this intellectual knowledge without feeling any of it. And if we discuss it all without feeling any of it, it does not have any power. It doesn't change our life. It doesn't change other people's lives either as a result. If we discuss it and then experiment and feel it, now we have the ability to change other people's lives. Now we have the ability to change completely. So I feel that it's very, very important when any person discusses God's nature and qualities and attributes, that they discuss it from a point of view of attempting to experience those qualities, feel them, to actually feel them enter themselves, rather than just discussing the qualities as a pure what do they call it, as psychological or philosophical discussion. We don't want to discuss God's great nature and qualities like that, because if we do that, we will end up dead in our life at some point in the future and still have not changed one single bit from that discussion, and therefore the world around us won't have changed through our existence being here either in a positive direction. If we allow ourselves to get away from the philosophy and the psychology and into the experience, now we have the ability firstly to transform our own self through the reception of divine love. But as we receive divine love, all of a sudden our nature and qualities, like our humility, our truth, our power, our intelligence, our wisdom, our love has now been all infused with these attributes that come from the divine. And so now we have the ability to reflect this divinity on earth and change the earth around us, change people around us through our interactions with them. That means that it has power in our life then. So it's pointless having an intellectual discussion without the power ever being experienced.